we're going to look at 1-point perspective lettering. I've drawn some block letters. They're about 2 inches tall. And by block, what we mean is that the width of the letter is uniform. So this leg is about, well, I guess we can measure it, about a centimeter. And it's about a centimeter here, about a centimeter there. And all the way around. So your letters are very uniform. And I'm asking if you would mind, please try to make these angled because it'll be a little easier for learning 1-point perspective. We're hoping to branch off of this and we will do 1-point perspective in buildings. So this is going to branch off into another drawing lesson. So let's just make it pointy because we're going to go pointy pretty soon. All right, so we're going to put 1 point down at the bottom of the page, just directly under the B. We talked about this in class, but this point is almost like it's your viewpoint. So I am looking, it's almost like my eyeballs are right here. I'm looking up at these letters. If my viewpoint was over here, that would be different. All of the sides of the letters, I would be able to see that left side of the letters. And of course, same with this. If the point were over here, I'd be able to see the right side of the letters. Right now, what you're going to see is kind of like under all the letters, and we're going to see these sides. It's just as if you did have a box, or actually, here, I'll use my pencil sharpener. This pencil sharpener is 3D. There's different sides to it. Just depends on where I am sitting versus where it is sitting as to what I can see about it. So if you can kind of see it, we'll pretend it's a little more cube shaped, but if the point were down here, I'm going to see more of that underside of the pencil sharpener and maybe a little bit of side depending on where it is. Notice as we move it, you will see more of this side and none of that side. And if I move it over here, I'll see this side now and almost none of that. So it just depends on where you put the point as to what you're going to see on your ABC. Okay, so let's get started. It's very important that you report to the point. All of these angles have to report to the point. You can't just draw into space. It has to go to this point. So I put my pencil on the point and I'm going to click my ruler up against that lead, and then I'm going to, see I'm fanning it over. I'm going to slide it over till I hit the A. And just as I hit that A, and you can get, you can kind of dot to dot, line it up, just draw a very nice faint line. We're going to want to erase some of this, so we don't want to carve into it because it's going to make it harder to erase later. And I'm just going to keep my point and my pencil together and connect my ruler, and I'm sliding it till I hit the next part of the A. And again, we're going to go very faint up that A. And let's do the bottom. We're going to skip this point and this point right now. We're just going to do the bottom. Just kind of get used to this. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go to the point with my ruler. And again, you can touch it with your pencil and line it up just to make sure you've got them. And then go ahead and draw the line in once you think it's ready. Or you can just keep it going and hit it and draw it. Just depends on how confident you feel. So we've done that. We've gotten the bottom of the letter. We're now going to decide how thick we want our letters. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to decide I want the A about this thick. And I'm going to draw here and here. Now you could, if you wanted to, draw the whole line across. You will have to erase the middle part. Like we are going to have to erase this middle part here. Let's do that now. This is just a guideline to help me build the letters, but I don't need that guideline here anymore. So I'll take that out. And in fact, if there's any other guidelines you have, you can erase that. Just so the letter floats a little bit better by itself. You can go ahead and do that. In fact, if we want to, I'm going to use my ruler as a guard. I'm going to hold that down, and that way I don't erase that line. And I'm going to erase a little bit of this just so my A will float a little better, and maybe you can see it. It'll look nicer. Okay, so my line got erased. Whoops, put that in. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to draw the undercarriage. I'm going to put my pencil here, line it up to the point, and draw. I'm going to put it here, line it up to the point, and ooh, I do see some. I'm going to go ahead and draw. Now, yours might be different. It probably is. Yours might line up such that if you were to line it up and then go to the point, it would actually draw on the face of the A. So if that is the case, or it goes along the leg, don't draw it. Mine happens to show up, which is going to be handy for lots of people, but it just depends on where the A is, where the dot is, you know, all that. Okay, now it's very important that we remember that this is a block. So whatever happens in the front is going to happen in the back because they're kind of like a box. So this angles. Notice it's not up and down, right? It's diagonal. So I'm going to line it up diagonally, just kind of echo that, and I'm going to slide my ruler at the same angle parallel to where I bump into this bottom to create basically kind of looks like a box here, right? If you were to cut off the A, I've got myself a cereal box. Okay. And then up here, it goes horizontal. So I'm going to start at this point here and go horizontal till I hit the next part where we have a directional turn. Remember we talked about directional turn with fabric? Well, this is a directional turn with a cube. So directional turn, going this way now, going this way. They have to be parallel. This one goes at this angle, and likewise, I'm going to make sure I know that angle and slide it down, and I'm going to meet this point to this point, and I now have my A. If you notice down in here, okay, we'll go to the top part. If you line that up with the point, and it does draw a line, like mine does, you can go ahead and draw it in. But if it does not, if it goes on to either, most of you probably are going to have it go on the line, or if it would have drawn on the face of the A, leave it blank. But if it shows up, go ahead and put it in, okay? And then again, you can kind of go in and clean up the letters. And that is your A. You can take some of those guidelines out if you want. Let's go to B. So again, I'm going to test the, well, let's go to the bottom. Let's just go to the bottom. We'll do the bottom first. I'm going to line that up. Draw my guideline, and for rounded edges, notice I don't have a point I can just grab and attach. So what I like to do is fan it in. So I line it up to the point down here, and I just find out where it bumps. And where it bumps that B, that is my, basically my point, okay? And draw it in. And now I'm going to want to erase that guideline. And remember, we talked about, and I really want to hone in on this, do not feel hesitant to have to turn your paper around because your hand doesn't always like to arc. It likes to arc in certain directions. So it just depends on how you're built, what feels good to you, how flexible, rubbery your hand is. Mine doesn't really like, there's certain angles, it just doesn't like to do it. So you can even kind of turn your paper upside down sometimes. It's just, anyway, this is drawing, this isn't handwriting, okay? All right, I want to, remember how we talked about keeping these uniform? I want this A to be this thick. I don't want to have this skinny over here and then fat over here. It's, you know, it's block lettering. I want my B and my A to be the same thickness. So I'm going to actually go over here to check how thick my A is, and this is how thick my B needs to be. Okay, so I know I need to do that. But remember how we talked about what happens in the front here has to happen in the back. So I'm going to go sideways. You can even go upside down if it helps you to see the shape better or that line better. But do you see how I have, oh sorry, my camera, I bumped it. I have this arc here. I have to actually have the same arc in the back. So it goes flat, 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 and then it curves down. Flat, 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 and then it curves down. These two curves match. That's important. And then I go ahead and I can check it right side up and say, yeah, I like the look of that. And then make it darker. And I can go ahead and erase any of those guidelines that I don't want. And draw them in. Again, we're going to be doing buildings, so this is going to be the first step into jumping into that. So pay attention. Make sure you got it. All right, now I'm going to check the top of my B. It maybe it doesn't line up with the point, but it might. Ah, it does. So remember how I showed you to put it on the point and go ahead and slide it in, and yep, I see a little bit. So it does touch. So I'll go ahead And I'll draw that line in there, and I'm just going to leave it. I don't have to do anything because this part of the B is getting cut off. You can also double check these corners here, see if they line up to the point, and do mine just a little bit. So they're just kind of dark. All right. Now, because this is this thick, it stands to reason that it's about that thick in the back. So it's not thinner on this top, at the top part of the B than it is at the bottom. But if I had made this very thin here, if my B was very thin, my upper part would be very thin too, like that. Okay? And I would just go ahead and cut them like that, you know, so it looks like it's that thick. But my B is thicker than this. So I'm not going to do that. But that is possible. Okay? It just depends on how you like it to look. And then we'll go to the C. The C has to do this check on both sides. So I go to the bottom, I slide my ruler in, fan it in, draw my line up to where it hits the edge of the C. I do the same on this, although this has a corner, so I can clearly see where to go. And then again, now again, my hand doesn't like to curve this down. I'm going to have to turn my paper. I want to make sure I know how thick to go, so I'm matching it up with my A, B, and my C is going to get divided here. And then I'm going to take out some of these lines, just because they might distract me a little bit. And I'm going to look at the curve of the C here, make sure I kind of got it. And I know that this is the thickness, so I'm going to make sure I anchor that first, because that just is fixed. That's the fixed width. And then I'm going to turn my paper. Remember, I'm just kind of keeping it just as thick. So it's about the same distance here to here as it is here to here. I'm keeping it in even thickness until it goes away. And you can kind of bring it a little bit, darken it up. Oh, whoa. Sometimes the pencil likes to just jump. There we go. Okay. And that's the bottom of my C. And I can go in again, take out all those lines, and then do the top. I'm just going to bump. I don't need to go all the way down. I just need, I'm guiding myself, okay? And it's about this thick. And remember, what happens in the front happens in the back. I got to keep, these two lines have to be parallel. Your eye will notice, and you'll be like, what's wrong? It doesn't look right. Double check that the front line and the back line echo each other, or they're parallel. And same here. See that arc right here? It has to arc in the back in the same manner. And then my C is done, and I have finished my ABCs. Yay! And that is homework. All right, thank you.